Her wrists burned as the rope dug deeper. The bullies laughed, convinced no one would save the quiet farm girl. But with one trembling hand, she made a single phone call. Minutes later, a shadow appeared at the edge of the field, and everything changed. The rope was rough, biting into her skin as she struggled. Her back pressed against the tree, the bark scraping her shoulder blades. The laughter of the bullies echoed through the empty field, sharp and cruel, filling the warm afternoon air with venom. They called her weak, mocked her quiet ways, and tied her to the tree for no reason other than their hunger for power. She said nothing. Her silence only fueled their taunts. Yet behind her calm eyes lay a secret they could never have imagined. With a small, deliberate movement, she slipped one hand toward the pocket of her worn jeans. Her fingers brushed the cool metal of her phone. A single message, just 3 words, left her trembling lips. "I need you." Miles away, her husband, once a soldier, forged in fire and shadow, received the call. He had seen battlefields where silence weighed heavier than gunfire. He had carried brothers through dust and smoke, standing unshaken where most would break. And now, hearing the strain in his wife's voice, his pulse quickened. His past life as a Delta Force operative was buried from public view, but not forgotten by him. For her, he would move mountains. She closed her eyes as the bullies mocked her. The smell of damp earth rose around her, mingled with the scent of grass trampled by boots. The wind carried the faint hum of cicadas. Each second crawled by. Fear could have overtaken her, but instead she remembered his words. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength waiting for the right moment. Her mind drifted back to the first time she saw him. He was no longer the soldier dressed in camouflage, but a man helping her fix a broken fence on her family's farm. His hands were scarred, his gaze steady. There had been something in him that radiated quiet dignity. In his eyes, she had found safety, not because he promised to protect her, but because he embodied a kind of honor that never faltered. Now, that honor was on its way. The bullies grew bolder. One tossed dirt toward her, another spat insults. Yet as their cruelty escalated, something shifted in the air. The farm grew strangely still, as though the wind itself was holding its breath. And then, from the edge of the field, a figure emerged. He moved with deliberate calm, boots pressing into the soil with the weight of quiet authority. His shirt clung to his broad frame, and though the bullies laughed at first, their voices faltered. There was something in the way he stood, unshaken, immovable, that pierced through their arrogance. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply untied the rope, his steady hands brushing against hers. For a moment, she leaned into his presence, her heartbeat steadying. The bullies muttered, unsure whether to run or continue their mockery. But then his gaze lifted, and his eyes met theirs. No words were spoken, yet the silence itself thundered louder than any threat. In that silence lived his past, nights of sacrifice, missions carried out in shadows, moments when he had stood between danger and the innocent. The bullies could not see the uniform he once wore, nor the battles he had endured, but they felt the weight of his unshakable dignity. One by one, their bravado crumbled. Shoes scuffed nervously against the ground. Laughter turned to stammered excuses. Then, without another word, they scattered into the distance, their courage dissolving into dust. He untied the final knot and looked at her. She met his gaze with quiet gratitude. No dramatic outburst was needed. Only the steady truth between them remained. Love, honor, and strength that spoke louder than any cruelty. Later, word spread in whispers through the small town. People spoke of the man who had appeared out of nowhere, whose silence had silenced others. They didn't know his past, but they knew one thing. When disrespect tried to break someone, dignity had stood taller. As the sun sank over the horizon, painting the fields gold, she walked beside him, her hand resting in his. In that moment, she understood fully. He wasn't just her husband. He was her unshakable shield, the man who carried storms within him but offered her only calm skies. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength waiting for the right moment. The girl once mocked for her quiet ways now walked free, her head high, while those who ridiculed her vanished in shame. The farm, once filled with laughter at her expense, now stood as a place where respect had been restored. Respect is not earned through cruelty. It is revealed in moments when the silent rise with dignity. Her husband's strength was not in his fists, but in his presence, in the quiet truth of who he was. Wherever you're watching from, remember this: the strongest people often speak the least because their actions tell the story.